In this part of the first week's lecture, I want to talk to you about why we even study macroeconomics. I mean, economics to a lot of people sounds boring. Why do we need to study it? Why do we care? So I'm going to tell you why we care about macroeconomics. And the reason we care, it can be boiled down into 4 questions. And these are very important questions. First question is, what causes inflation? Now you might say, well, I don't really care about inflation. It's not that big a deal. I don't even pay attention to it. But I promise you that you will. Because inflation affects a lot of things. It affects interest rates. So when you're taking out a loan, it'll affect that. Inflation affects the money supply and prices and what we pay for things. Inflation affects your salary and increases in your salary. So for example, when you get a job, you're going to get a certain amount paid to you, so much per hour or some salary. And then at the end of the year, they're going to sit down with you for an employee evaluation. And when they have that evaluation, they're going to say, okay, well, we really like your work, so we're going to give you a 2% pay raise. And you might say, oh, okay, cool, I'm getting a pay raise. Well, actually, you're not getting a pay raise. In fact, a year like this, you'd be getting a pay cut because inflation is about 2.3%. And so you're only getting a 2% raise. That means you're getting a pay cut of 0.3%. So there are all kinds of things that you need to be aware of when it comes to inflation. We want to understand what causes it so we can try to do our part in helping to avoid lots of inflation. The second question that we have to deal with, and that's important in understanding why we study macroeconomics, is what causes unemployment. Now, all of you at some point in your lives will probably get laid off. You're going to suffer from unemployment. And it's important to understand why and how do you avoid it. And there are a whole bunch of different factors that can cause unemployment, and there are things that you can do about it to try to address it. But it's important to be prepared for it and to understand how it might affect you. The third question is, what causes business cycles? Now you're probably wondering, what's a business cycle? Well, it's more commonly referred to as a recession. And as you know, these happen fairly regularly. We're going through one right now in the United States because of the pandemic, but it's also happened in the past because of real estate issues and other factors. And economists have been trying for decades to try to figure out what causes these business cycles. They seem to come fairly regularly, about every 5 to 10 years we have one. And so far they haven't been able to figure that out. So we're going to spend some time this semester looking at the different theories, see if we can't learn something from what different economists have come up with. But the fourth question is the most important question. This is the world peace question. We all want world peace, but we're not going to get world peace from politics. In fact, if anything, politics will create more wars. We're not going to get world peace from religion because the different religions hate each other, and if anything, that causes a lot of wars. We're not going to get world peace from any other source except making everybody rich. If everybody is rich, then they won't fight each other. Why? Because people don't like their things broken. If they have a lot of stuff, they don't want it broken. They don't want their kids killed. They don't want their stuff broken. It's only when there's poverty and a discrepancy in incomes and wealth, that's when we have wars. And we want to have world peace. So what is the answer? This is the question that we have to consider. Why do some countries have sustained economic growth? Why do some countries have sustained economic growth? And why do other countries not? We see many countries who suffer economic downturns that stay down, great poverty and suffering, like in Venezuela right now. While countries like America, most of the European countries continue to get richer and richer. We often think that we have a lot of poverty in America, but let me tell you, we don't have poverty in America compared to the rest of the world. A few years ago, my wife and I, along with our son, toured Nicaragua. And we had a driver, and he took us all over the country. We visited people in some of the poorest circumstances I've ever seen, most of them living in virtually cardboard boxes and crates. that had been put together into a shanty town. They had run a wire up to some electrical poles to get some electricity so they could have one light bulb, maybe their television, because they all have to have a television, of course. And they were eating lizards and other horrible things you and I wouldn't consider. Now that's poverty, and Nicaragua happens to be the second poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. But they would look at the poorest people in America who live in some housing and have an income from some government program, and they have education and so forth available to them. And they would say, oh man, you're rich. In fact, our driver, who considered himself wealthy because he had a horse and he had concrete floors in his house, still lived in a very, very small little house. And so what's the difference? Why do some countries have that kind of poverty, and why do some countries not? So these are the four most important questions, and we will be reviewing them and preparing you during the first part of the semester to find answers to these questions. And then afterwards, we'll talk about what we know and what we don't know.